The third area is marketing campaigns. And really the strategy is to be able to track and measure your results. We're always trying to figure out where we're spending money, what are the recruitment activities that we're engaging in, and then how is that returning on the investment? Like, what am I getting out of those efforts? And by setting up these reports, that's going to clearly tell you your successes, or maybe failures, but we don't have any of those. Well, no one does. Display attribute-based survey responses. You can actually pull surveys, and then if you survey your lead base, you can then report off of it and create some really interesting reports that could give you some more insight as to who your students are. And I'm predominantly the person who utilizes this function with the marketing campaigns. I like to keep a pulse on what's going on because the strategy component is part of my position. So I wanted to give you one example. This is a CapEx report. We work with CapEx to provide leads for us, and it's been working really great. But the question that we always get is, how is it working? How many students are enrolling? And some of our vendors do give us nice reports. If we give them a nice data list of our enrollments, they'll send something back and say, well, this is how many leads I gave you this year, so this is what your return on investment was. Well, we can run this in-house daily. So it's a real-time comparison of what's happening with those lead services. So what this report is pulling is every single lead we've ever gotten from that vendor into one report, and then we're doing it by student status, and then also the year that the student was interested in starting. So you can look at our enrolled numbers, and then we can start to make some really informed decisions about, is this paying off? I'm paying X amount of dollars for this contract, but then, I got 65 enrollments. Well, what does that look like for you in your office? Is that a success, or is that something that needs improvement? Because then you can really start having those intense conversations about, either upgrading your, or enhancing your listing with those vendor services, or maybe you don't want to continue that contract then because it hasn't been as fruitful as you'd hoped it was. So some best practices for this one, you need to be able to record the response. So either utilizing a reply card or some other means of the student confirming that they received some materials that you sent to them. Alternatively, you could also report on different campaigns utilizing the letters and mailings jobs, and then you can track that activity as well. I mentioned before that we run a search campaign in-house, and so for us to do that search campaign, we want to make sure that we're continually assessing those leads. So you can either use modified source code, initial source code if you bought a large list of students, or you could do it by the letter and mailing that you ran out of your system. So there's a variety of ways that you can report on it, but then you can watch them by student status and see how they move through your funnel.